everyone. Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Library podcast. This is a special edition, so it's just Garret and I sitting here talking with you. Today, we're going to talk about Proptech, and we're going to try and make this a regular series that we do. It's something that we're both incredibly interested in. Garret and I were talking before this, and I was saying, when I first got into real estate, you come in and you have all of these great ideas and hyper innovative, and you look around at some of the guys who are doing it before you and you think, well, what a bunch of dinosaurs. How come they're not using all these technologies or thinking in this different way? But then you get into the motions and you start finding success, and more you kind of forget about these innovative strategies and all of the tech that's moving so quickly beyond the world of real estate. And so this is a very helpful reminder, but also a lot of these tools you can implement, maybe the tools, but also just the ideas of why they're so successful, because they're all hitting on pain points that your clients and customers, or maybe you as a landlord, have. So anyways, that's a little intro.
Or even you as on a personal level, as you'll see, some of these things are applicable to just the everyday individual.
Yes. So what's our first one?
First one that we're looking at is Opendoor.
Opendoor.
Yeah, that is opendoor.com.
Opendoor.com. So
this episode is not sponsored by anyone.
Yeah, we'll get the sponsorships rolling. You know what? No, that's not true. Other than our favorite sponsor, KMB Law. KMB Law for all of your commercial real estate deals, financing, and they are the best. So use them. Okay. So for those of you who haven't heard about Opendoor, they primarily, I think they exclusively operate in the States right now. They were recently in the news for, raising funds through a SPAC, valuing the company at like $4.5 billion or something around there. Essentially what Opendoor is you put your property up and say, hey, I'm willing to sell my property. And Opendoor will give you a valuation in almost like that. I was looking at a video from a year ago and they were doing it basically within 2 days. Now I'm sure it's faster. And they say, hey, we're going to buy your property for this value. Walk around, do a virtual tour, and they will literally give you an offer for that value that they've quoted. What they hit on is they're not going to be the highest price, but they're going to be a reasonably accurate price. That is, what they're saving you is they're providing certainty for the end customer, and they're providing the convenience of just immediate liquidity.
And I'm guessing that you also save on fees. Because they do have two options. One of them being that Opendoor buys your property through what you just described, Dayma, and then another one is that you can also list through Opendoor. In the United States, I believe that they have, it's 3% and 3% for a buyer and seller broker. I think that they do it at 5%. So you do save a bit if you do list it on the Opendoor website versus just having to buy your property outright, which, I feel like that's an investor's dream because everybody loves private sales that aren't on the market, and that's how you make a lot of money. So I don't know how particularly that they're able to do that business, in the sense that they must have oodles of cash on hand, the ability to actually put out these offers.
So they definitely do. So everybody knows SoftBank from WeWork, and they invest in basically every tech company, but Opendoor is one of them. So they invested, I think, a couple of years ago, valuing the company at $3.5 billion or so, and put a large chunk of change in there. I'm curious. So you're mentioning there's the two aspects of the business. One is having Opendoor buy it, and that's what I think the platform was built on, is getting an offer right away. So the pain point being, it's a residential homeowner who is saying, I don't want to go through the hassle of having a broker do this, the humming and hawing, the process of, uncertainty, and I don't know if the deal's going to go through, and all of that. And they're saying, essentially, I was listening to an interview from the founder, and he was saying that when they were starting up, they went to people in San Francisco and said, okay, if I was to give you 80% of your property value or 85% of your property value right now, would you consider it? And, there's a good percentage of the population that says, no, take a hike. But there's some percentage as you creep up to what their actual property value is that really value that certainty and convenience and the liquidity, right? So that's who their target market is. And it's interesting to think about, one, how they do their underwriting. Now, obviously, they're at scale. So how do they get it super accurate? Those are kind of all the things I'm thinking about.
Yeah, no, and they probably use some system that's similar to, like, I think it's Zoocasa, that has a thing where you can literally Google your house and then they just estimate what the value is based on comparable sales and transactions. Because it's basically taking what's traditionally done here in Canada through MLS, and then just taking all of that data and then aggregating it into like some form of estimation type of thing, and then projection. So it's utilizing big data to be able to guess those values.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Leo the Lion, the #1 broker in Canada. So he says. But you see those billboards, and it's like, Leo's patented system, we'll give you an offer within no time. And it's, it kind of makes me think of that. And it also, that's one thing I think that, so a couple questions, because this is a commercial real estate podcast. Is this eventually going to be something that we see in commercial real estate? And number two, what lessons can we apply to commercial real estate? I'm in brokerage, you're in brokerage, Garret. Is it that the speed and certainty is hypercritical to a certain percentage of clients? Anyway, so question number one to you. How is this going to get into commercial real estate?
So I have a bit of hands-on experience when it comes to this type of technology through the crowdfunding company that I tried to start, or did start, and went through some regression. We did face a lot of market difficulties because the United States has 330 million people. The market is a lot bigger, okay? Whereas Canada is very small and very segregated in terms of, like, you got 15 million on this side of the country and 15 million 4 time zones away. Okay, that's pretty far away. We're in contrast to, like, you in the United States, you have all these big cities that are so close together that what this company is trying to do, Opendoor, is commoditize the real estate market on sort of an individual basis, where you see the amount of volume in real estate, right? There's so many different transactions when it comes to residential real estate. In contrast to commercial, there's a lot less. Okay, there's probably like 15,000 transactions per year in Ontario, let's say.
Right.
That's not a lot that you're trying to commoditize, because a lot of them are taken up by people like you. You brokers and relationships, and you're trying to degrade that value add by somehow making a simple process to trade and transact these properties.
Right. Do commercial real estate people, typically more sophisticated, do they require that convenience and immediate liquidity? Sometimes probably they do.
Yeah, and I would argue that a lot of those times is when the property is distressed, and that becomes a situation where there's a lot more analysis involved in order to actually understand what's going on with the property and how to fix it. Because it's a little different when you buy a house for, again, this is the United States. Property houses are like $250,000. Okay, they're cheap. When you make a mistake with $250,000, like, oh, okay, you got burned $5,000. You make that up with the next deal. But then you buy a $12 million industrial building and you're off by $2 million, then you lost $2 million. Right. The impact of being wrong is significantly higher, and therefore that requires so much more due diligence in order to actually, deal with it. like in terms of analyze what you think the value is and what the uplift is. And residential real estate, single asset. Everybody knows what a home is. But then what, for commercial real estate, you have office buildings, retail buildings, self-storage facilities, industrial, apartment. You know, some people spend their whole career like in one asset class. You have, Starlight, one asset class. They're the industry leader in that field, but like they're one asset class. I don't know if you would particularly know what to do with a cold storage facility,
Yeah.
or how to turn it around.
Right. Well,
because you don't have the same connections, you don't have the same ability to lease it up. Like obviously, if you're a $1 billion company, you could probably figure it out. But to be able to do it and make money, that's a different thing.
Okay, so what's the take then? If we have to have a hot take here, it's that the complexity of commercial real estate would make it more challenging for a technology like this to exist, and the size of the Canadian market also make it a challenge.
And but I was going to say the capital required.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I think Opendoor, I feel like they started with like raising $5 million or something.
Yeah, like even if you have $1 billion worth of equity, you're still a very small player in the commercial real estate space. Right.
Okay. So, okay, that's interesting. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of lessons that can be applied, and just noting that, as a good subset of your customers, maybe not so far as being somebody who's distressed, but there's still a subset of your customers that just hate dealing with uncertainty and the inconvenience of listing a property. So if you can, tighten those up, now I'm speaking almost, just from the broker's perspective, but if you can solve those issues, that could probably go a long way. Okay, Skyline.ai. So I think what I'd love to do here for our audience is to play the video that introduces the company. So this is right off the company's website. I hope that YouTube doesn't take down our video because we're playing their video. This is a 1-minute video of Skyline AI, just so you guys can get some context.
In recent years, financial markets have been transformed by advanced technologies. Yet the largest market of all, commercial real estate, remained virtually unchanged. A few exceptional investment managers rose above the rest, but even the most capable remained confined by the boundaries of human ability. Skyline AI fuses the expertise of select commercial real estate partners with artificial intelligence to achieve above-human performance. Continuously processing millions of diversely sourced data points, Skyline AI covers over 400,000 assets, observing every deal made in the last 5 decades. Using a proprietary ensemble of machine learning models, Skyline AI decodes the mechanics that govern the market. We identify emerging trends from the cross-continent to the neighborhood level, pinpointing the areas that are about to take off while avoiding potential downturns. Through deep analysis of owner and asset behavior, we detect value creation opportunities, off-market deals, distress signals, mismanagement, and various performance anomalies. Uncovering hidden risk factors, we vet opportunities that can withstand uncertain market conditions. Underwriting within seconds, we are the first to secure high-value deals. Injecting advanced technology into the commercial real estate market, we take investment management beyond human boundaries. Skyline AI. Real estate investment meets artificial intelligence.
I mean, my first reaction is that whoever edited that video and the graphics for that video deserve like an award, because like I'm really interested in your thoughts about this, because AI in reality, first of all, it's a very loose term that's just used to attract a lot of investment funds, because in reality it doesn't look like all those sweet graphs like Tony Stark's house. It's more like it's messier, and it's not. It's just how good is your data in order to, right? So I'm wondering what are all these data points that they're measuring to make such enhanced decisions?
So probably what they're doing is simply just looking at trends. And it's like, because they have 50 years of historical data, they probably just link in with CoStar or something like that, or the other data providers in the United States, or even just, the land registry system in terms of sales and stuff like that. They probably just look at the 50 years and they're like, okay, inclusive of external factors such as, interest rates and bond prices, yields, price of currency, all that other stuff. Right. When price of currency drops to this level and this happens and this happens, then we see a deflation in what they call probably mid-markets or something like that. So they would project that there would probably be a downward turn in certain markets or something. And then there would be an upturn in the suburban market or something like that because of the downturn of interest or whatever type of thing. That's probably what they're doing effectively, or I assume that they're trying to do. Like AI, as you said, is a very loose term. AI is something that's just, you build a box and AI can be in that box. They can't be outside of that box. They can simply just play within the inputs that you have it. It's like they have an AI system that can play chess. You try to get that AI system to play checkers, lose every game. But chess, it'll win. And chess is still a complex game. And it took people years in order to build something that can beat people at chess.
Yeah. It's funny because, we just did Opendoor and we're saying, well, how can quick valuations and this type of model be applied? And then boom.
Yeah, I know. Here it is. Here it is. We didn't plan that, but here it is.
There's the answer. But again, it speaks to what is the quality of the information, what of those inputs, and what is this algorithm that's being used to make decisions, and is it informing decisions, or is it actually resulting in decisions? Is it highlighting opportunities, and then that's when you say, okay, we'll take a second look at this. It kind of sounds like it's augmenting your expertise as a buyer or asset manager.
Yeah, because it's more so probably telling you where to go based on and telling you what the historical information is saying about particular markets. I highly doubt that it's telling you to buy this particular building. You could probably give it the inputs of that building and it would, give you an opinion. But that's no different than some kid doing an Argus model and being like, yeah, okay, it could be this value. This is your return. Boom. Right. There you go. Because
it's probably most applicable for people making decisions almost at a large scale and saying, well, when should we invest in Detroit?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's measuring, okay, well, Detroit's GDP and rent, went this way, rents went this way. Typically this happens in Detroit. There's I guess, it just uses as much information as possible, but it's really interesting. Again, it goes back to that point of just, commercial real estate being a bit more complex. But, I remember watching this video of Dylan Taylor, the old Collier CEO, and he was quick to point out that, yeah, don't be dismissive of these technologies that happen at the more unsophisticated parts of the market, because they quickly learn that part of the market at scale and they slowly start edging up, and you say, well, it only happens to smaller commercial properties or this properties that fit this model, and then all of a sudden it's the whole thing. So it'd be really interesting to see kind of where this technology goes, especially as we know we're in Canada. So how long does it take to get to Canada? Stuff like that seems like it's more effective in the States, and then the next place would be, Shanghai. Or probably it's already in Shanghai.
But the problem I would say is that these guys need really good data, because if you have imperfect data, then your AI system or algorithms are running off of imperfect data and therefore are more prone to obviously make, false generalizations.
Which is a fantastic point, because, you can think about Colliers, which in Canada uses its own CRM system to track building data, versus CoStar, which, you know, is great, but people have their quarrels with, and, you know, it doesn't always work. You know, it really is dependent on who's putting in that information, tracking it all the time. And there's a bunch of inaccuracies within there too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I would say that this is probably the holy grail that everyone would want, but to make it an actually like perfect system, you are going to have to get so much information that it's currently doesn't exist, and it probably won't ever exist, because you're going to have landlords aren't going to contribute to telling people all the information, you know?
right, because that takes away from their competitive edge.
Yeah, exactly, because it's more closed door. Whereas, like, you know, I guess in the residential market, which we see with these other companies doing algorithms and stuff, it's way more simple, and it is way closer to be a commodity than it is to be a, you know, like what commercial real estate is. Because, like, how do you know that a self-storage facility on the edge street of town is all of a sudden going to go booming because of whatever reason? You know,
that's one of the weird things. In order for you to get contributions from like all of these landlords that are going to give you those data points and make sure that it's hyper accurate, like they almost need to have an ownership stake in the outcome. Like,
yeah, exactly. And like, there's also factors like, what if the country goes to war, or some random external factor that doesn't generally, like, you know, thought about, or COVID, for God's sakes. You know, I'm sure that COVID probably threw this investment algorithm right through the door, because of those incredibly hard to predict things that all of a sudden completely changed the market. Because, like, you know, the data that we get from this, like, sure, it'll probably be impactful for the next time that we have a global pandemic that locks everyone down, but, like, you know,
yeah,
in terms of information.
I think this is a good point. And I know, like, I was looking that Opendoor actually stopped for a little while during the pandemic, and they said, well, it's because we want to protect our customers. And it's like they probably just didn't know what was going on, and they're saying, okay, well, I don't know if our information's right for right now.
Yeah, they didn't want to put out money because you didn't know if the market was going to bottom out, or it was hyperinflating, or what's going on, you know?
Right. So, okay. Well, very interesting technology.
Yeah, this is a great idea. It's just that it'd probably be very hard to execute.
Yeah, for those in the audience, what does this make you think of? What information would you track if you had to make a hyper-informed real estate decision on a specific market or asset class? You know, could you compile 15 data points that specifically would help you make that decision? I don't know, something to think about. Okay, what's next?
TenX.
TenX offers 3 streamlined transaction solutions: Live Bid, Managed Bid, and Offer Select. In this video, you'll learn about the live bid process. With Live Bid, a broker and their seller set an unpublished reserve price. Then, after a fixed marketing period, a 2-day online auction is held. This solution is great for value-add assets where contingencies are generally not needed, or where the market value may not be clear. Live Bid is also ideal for brokers and sellers who want an expedited transaction and are willing to meet market pricing. To get started with Live Bid, the broker coordinates with a TenX representative who onboards the property to the platform. First, we work with the broker to set the reserve price and collect due diligence documentation to ensure prospective buyers have all the information they need before bidding on the property. Next, the TenX team, in partnership with the broker, builds a comprehensive property detail page on our platform that showcases relevant details about the asset, including professional photography, unique selling propositions, and due diligence documents. Then, our proprietary algorithm precision matches buyers from the broker's custom list, third-party sources, and the TenX database of over 400,000 qualified investors. Once the property detail page is live, we launch a multi-channel marketing campaign that includes targeted digital advertising, social media, print, direct mail, call campaigns, and more. These marketing initiatives engage leads and generate an average of 2,000 unique visitors to the property page. From here, prospects can execute a digital confidentiality agreement to view due diligence documents. Their contact details are fed into the TenX dashboard, where brokers can dig into buyer activity on the listing, track marketing activities, manage leads, and more. As prospective buyers become interested in bidding on the property, they register for the auction by submitting proof of funds on the platform. After the fixed marketing period ends, the online auction begins. Live bid auctions are two-day events where approved buyers place their best bids online. Throughout the auction, the broker receives regular updates and alerts and has a TenX team member available to answer any questions. In the last hour of the auction, all parties connect to review bids and discuss strategies to ensure maximum execution for the asset. Once the winning buyer is notified, TenX coordinates the online execution of the purchase agreement and ensures the earnest money is deposited promptly. To minimize complications and facilitate the transfer of sale, the TenX platform seamlessly automates the contracts and closing of the property. Contact TenX today to learn how your property can benefit from Live Bid, a streamlined end-to-end transaction solution for commercial real estate.
So, Dayma, how do you feel about that?
Okay. I thought that was super interesting. You know what it immediately makes me think of? One of my colleagues at Colliers, like we're a big five brokerage on the commercial side. He started going to resi brokers and saying, "Hey, look, if you have any large properties and you're not sure if you can deliver all of the value to the owner, well, I'll cooperate with you, and we can share the fee, but I'll run the whole process. You can leverage Collier's bid process. You can leverage our marketing campaign and our network, and we'll ensure that this whole process is done in a way that it is hyper professional." So I think that's really interesting. They're essentially just a tack onto a broker. One thing that I found just interesting was, for the same reason as my buddy does this, it's why would you even use that other co-op who's just getting some fee? Why not go direct? So I thought it was really interesting how they actually, their whole pitch is you work with a broker to come in, and the broker will, so they're not cutting out a broker, but I don't understand why you would.
Yet.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I guess once their network gets big enough, but I thought it's essentially, obviously we add our own expertise, so I don't want to undersell what we typically do, but like all of the steps there are very similar to how it would happen at a major brokerage, in addition to the hand holding that happens with the client, and ideally you can better understand and point out the value to these interested purchasers, so that you maximize the value for your client, but like it's along the same lines as what we do.
Yeah, and in reality, their long-term play is to carve out that broker and simply be the broker acting on behalf of the client that's looking to sell the building. It's a very intelligent way that they're marketing it, where they're in the sense that they're saying that they're just an aid to a broker, but then they're going to probably be like, well, if a borrower just comes to us because they had a good experience and they cut out on the fee, and then we get 2% or 1% or whatever the fee ends up being.
Right. And they're running the entire process too. So the client is saying, well, I'm getting all these emails from this website. This is what this broker told me is the best thing about his process. Why don't I just use this process?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it is probably very good and effective for a decent amount of deals. Like, obviously the value in the broker being the actual relationship management aspect, because otherwise I'm sure that you just have random people that are calling other random people trying to get them to buy a building doesn't seem as necessarily, the same type of approach. But this is effectively them trying to commoditize that commercial real estate market.
Well, yeah, and I mean the transaction, the smoothness of the process, running a hyper effective process is a huge value add to clients. I mean, that's what institutional clients want. That's what private clients want as well. They just want to know that they're in the best position to maximize value. I think
presumably saves them money as well.
Yeah, the only part of it that this wouldn't have is that analysis on, I guess you would want an expert to help point out where the building is, might have value that isn't being uncovered. And that's kind of,
That for sure.
But you could, I'm sure you could, if that was the only part you needed, then you could reduce the fee and carve that out.
Because keep in mind that CoStar did buy these guys.
Right.
So you do also have CoStar who can step in and be like, look at all this information on your property, because they do those property reports and all this stuff. And like, this is what we think the value is because, we're the largest commercial real estate data provider in the United States.
Right.
So
yeah, I think it's, and by the way, when you measure up to, especially, I think, no discredit to brokers, but I think 80% of brokers are not like amazing, right? So probably some system like this would do a relatively good job at finding value too. So it's kind of interesting to think about. If you're, that's where they say, again, a lot of our audience is brokers. You got to hope that you're that 20% and be working incredibly hard to make sure you're adding value in some capacity, because especially as this technology keeps coming down the pipe, it's only going to get more, it's only going to get better. And it can be exciting as long as you know how to use these things, and, you're augmenting your own skill set, I guess.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's carving out the low-hanging fruit. Okay, right. In the sense that, how Opendoor is targeting basically the residential agents market, this is targeting the commercial broker market on that low-hanging fruit where, you scroll through their site of done deals, like they're obviously, some of them are in fact quite large, but most of them are that smaller stuff. That's sort of that first tier and rung of the commercial real estate space. They're not the, Class A office buildings in downtown Toronto type of thing, But who knows? You might get there one day.
I think so.
As the technology evolves.
I think we're headed in that direction. I mean, of course we are. So there you have it. Make your money while you can.
Yeah, invest in AI, because those people, that type of tech is going to keep going.
Yeah. When technology comes at you, I mean, in any point in time, and I think this is why such a good segment. At any point in history, technology has always seemed scary and that it's going to take your job. But you need to be the one that's inventing the technology or using the technology to augment your skill set, and don't be scared of it, because then you'll lose. Lean into it, and it can be truly exciting. And so we hope you've enjoyed this discussion. We're going to try and make this a regular series. This was our first run at it, so a little choppy, and but yeah, we hope you've enjoyed it, and thanks so much for listening.